Soon as I found out that this series was by the author of Baccano and Durarara, I knew I had to continue watching it, because it's like, the way the story was with the first episode and how it fooled me and everyone, like we were wrong about it because it looked like a typical, like, you know, a isekai series fantasy story, and it turned into something completely different. As soon as I had that twist, and I saw the ending of the first episode, I was like, I gotta sit down, I gotta watch this series, I gotta continue watching this series, and here I am. So let's talk about episode 2 of Dead Mount Death Play. So we start this episode off with a backstory to Corpse God, the main character of the story, and FYI, remember the twist at the end of the episode was that it wasn't actually like the human, like we fought the actual good guy of the first episode. It was actually like the main villain, so to speak, of, you know, the first episode that got reincarnated into modern day Japan. It was quite the shock. And so this episode opens up and gives us the much-needed backstory for the character. And everything that is kind of depicted within this backstory, what happens here, basically showcases that the Corpse God isn't necessarily completely good for his actions and what he does afterwards with vengeance, etc., but it's very clear that he isn't completely evil. And if there is one thing that this episode really wants us to kind of see, is that we are not dealing with, like, characters that are, let's just say, completely good, not characters that are completely evil. We are in a middle ground, morally gray characters throughout this entire story. There is some exceptions, though. I mean, we obviously have characters like, you know, Zaki, which is the assassin girl that, you know, died at the end of the first episode and gets resurrected, you know, in this episode, basically. Let's be honest, she's not a good person. Like, if there is anything really to say, is that she 100% is probably, like, the best way to describe her is evil. Like, she is legit evil. Like, we get her backstory within this episode. Like, she legit was about to, as you can see on screen, just be done with everything. Because she realized just how messed up she was. She realized that she was capable of killing an innocent person. And basically, this character obviously realized how far gone she was, and there was pretty much no redemption for her. She was a psycho. She was able to kill innocent people, and so she was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And obviously, thanks to circumstances, that did not happen, thanks to obviously the Corpse God, or Polka, being alive. But basically, to get back into the main point, this entire episode kind of showcases multiple different perspectives of characters, getting to, you know, see how these characters aren't necessarily good or completely bad. They have circumstances to them, and they all have led the life they've lived and what has led them to be where they're at right now within the story. And Corpse God, as I said, is a good example of this. He's someone that obviously wanted a life of peace. He was someone that served a country, as we could see. Eventually, he just wanted peace. He settled down with a bunch of kids, and he was just raising them, taking care of them, and that was about it. Eventually, one day, this ruling empire and all that came in, and they basically destroyed everything that he loved and cherished, and so he decided to retaliate, and you could see on screen what he does to the people that did him wrong. And so once that was done, he decided to kind of seclude himself into a remote location within a cave, and as eons passed, like probably hundreds of years, you know, as time continued to tick forward, his lair overall attracted more skeletons, and anyone that kind of entered into his lair, you know, died, and basically his entire objective at this point in his life was to use his reincarnation magic to obviously be, you know, in the new world that we see in episode 1 and episode 2. So everything about the way the story is depicted is that, you know, the Corpse God, he just wants to be left alone. He just wants to be in peace. He wants to be left alone, have a normal life, so to speak, as normal as he can have, and that's about it. Honestly, I respect it. I legit do respect it. Now, there is one thing I do want to talk about when it comes to the elephant in the room, okay? I am enjoying this series quite a bit. I legitimately am loving, like, just how this series is. Like, it's fun. It is fun. I think anyone that sat down and watched this episode can agree it's a very fun episode. But there is something that does need to be pointed out here, and I have faith that it's going to be a-okay because it is the author of Baccano and Durarara, because that author, you know, is very well known for some wacky, strange characters and turn of events and all that, even using psychological. So I do have faith everything is going to be okay. I have literally, like, no doubt in my mind, but I still need to mention it. This episode, at least the way it's depicted, it tries to kind of say, oh, the mafia or the Yakuza that is kind of now coming into contact with the corpse god, and he's going to be working with them from now on, it's trying to paint the fact that they're not necessarily bad because, you know, they want to protect the kids that were in this building fire, and they worried about them, etc., and then obviously the corpse god, he goes out of his way to try to save the kids as well. And just the entire circumstance and the way it's kind of trying to be conveyed to the audience, at least me as, you know, an anime only, is that it's like, oh, you know, they're saving kids. They care about kids. These bad individuals are saving kids, so they are not really bad guys whatsoever. And obviously, yeah, okay, this does put them in a morally gray area, but I feel like there's some more depth there than that, because if it's just that, it's literally very shallow, because it's like, just because they're saving these kids that are, like, you know, orphans and a part of, like, you know, they're orphans of a Yakuza and all that, doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, this group that is coming in contact with the corpse god is good. If that's what the episode wanted us to believe, I don't think that's a good way to do it, because they're definitely not good. I mean, I have a good reason for this, to kind of shut down that whole argument. For instance, you know, Polka. Like, this character right here, okay? Yes, Corpse God is in his body, okay? We know this. But we have to take a moment to think that when, you know, Zaki, you know, the assassin girl that got brought back in this episode, she took an assignment to basically kill an innocent boy. That was what her objective was. And at least from, you know, the assignment that she received and what she said and what we heard is that, you know, Polka, at least the original person within this body, was a innocent student. That's it. Now, obviously, there could be more to it than that. Maybe there's more information down the road we'll find out. But at least from what has been established with this episode, you know, he was innocent. So the fact that he died just shows how evil and corrupt the organization is. And for them to kind of spout like, oh, those kids that are orphans, you know, you need to save them or I wish we could do something. It's kind of like, oh, so you worry about that, but, you know, someone like Polka, throw them in the wind, or, you know, throw them under the bus, so to speak. It's just like, really? Like, I don't know. So, what I'm trying to say is that I trust the author. I think the author is a really good writer, and I think that this is going to probably lead to some complicated issues in the future, because Corpse God, obviously, he's been used, he wants to have peace, and I don't think this group will probably have his complete best interest in mind. They'll just use him to obtain what they want. Obviously, he's a very shady and mysterious figure. I mean, he's literally capable of summoning the dead, so it's like, we see it here, and so it's clear that maybe the organization, like the Yakuza that is kind of, you know, working with him, they're necessarily just using him. Because this character right here, she seems incredibly smart. She doesn't seem like a dumb character, and the way this episode kind of gave me certain vibes, it reminded me a little bit of Black Lagoon. I don't know how many of you guys out there have probably watched Black Lagoon or read the manga Black Lagoon, but the way this episode at least depicts this character, at least, reminds me of some aspects of that, is that she is just playing a long game. She realizes that right now they don't have any manpower to be able to deal with whatever they're dealing with, for instance, you know, the corpse god, so they're going to take their chances, be safe right now, and use him to their benefit, for they can accomplish whatever goals they want. I mean, she even says herself, you know, she wants money. That's basically what she wants. So I don't necessarily think she's probably that good of a person. She's just taking it very slow and trying to be calculative in what she's doing. Now, there is another thing I do want to talk about, since I was on the discussion of, like, you know, them being morally gray, evil, or trying to make it seem like they're good guys because, you know, they were worried about, you know, the kids, and, you know, the orphan kids in the building. They come and try to save, you know, Misaki, or Zaki, that, you know, was the assassin that died. Their whole purpose of even being here, like, in the middle of the episode, like, why they're here, is that, you know, they wanted to, revenge her, so to speak, and go after Polka. And this entire moment, it's just like, okay, so you're telling me you're sending your entire squad after what you assume to be an innocent boy. Obviously, they had the video footage, they saw that, and obviously, you know, seeing is believing. I completely understand that one. But it's like, you say this kid's an innocent boy, and then you go in there with a big armed group just to get rid of this boy. It's just like, really? I mean, I guess it isn't really showing that they're good guys. It's showing that they're wanting to probably protect their reputation, because that is a big thing. Like, I mean, if their assassin fails and can't get rid of someone, it looks bad on them. That is a possibility as well, why they're even there. But overall, I think that the second episode is legitimately good. Like, I do enjoy it. I know it sounds like maybe I didn't like it or whatever. I like this episode quite a bit. I wanted to mention that because I think that if I really do care for this series, I do need to point that stuff out. But I think that it's going to probably lead into a direction where the main character realizes he's being used, and a bunch of people are going to come after him, and he might even start his own faction. I do think that this isn't like the be-all, end-all, so to speak, of, you know, dead mount death play for our main character, the Corpse God. He'll probably form his own group eventually, because he'll realize, once again, he is being used. So yeah, we'll see where the story goes. But besides that, though, I do want to talk about, you know, Zaki, by the way, her backstory we got within this episode. Her backstory is messed up. Like, I understand why she went the way she went. It broke her mind being that young and seeing all that. It makes a lot of sense. It does. But it doesn't excuse the fact that she is a bad person. It doesn't. But I do think it's pretty interesting to see a mentally insane / unstable character front and center. I am happy that she isn't technically permanently dead. I think it would be such a waste. So I am excited to see how she is with our main male character. I'm assuming she's going to become a love interest. I want to take an educated guess. That's probably what's going to happen, but we will see. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, you know, do leave me a like. It does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. But with that, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.